Hello, welcome to another Energy Matters interview. I'm Vicky Delajoyo, and I'm just so glad that you're taking time to watch, particularly this episode with one of my very favorite people on the planet, my chi
Wow.
brother, Francesco Garripoli, who is an
And
internationally recognized Qigong teacher, meditation instructor, yoga practitioner, musician, brainwave researcher, author, doctor of divinity, and wellness advocate. He's an Emmy award-winning producer and is featured on award-winning Qigong videos practiced by hundreds of thousands around the world. So he really is making this big difference in terms of bringing these practices to people, especially now at these times that are so challenging. He's also the author of The Qi Effect, which I want to talk with him about today, and Qigong Essence of the Healing Dance. He studied with elder masters while living in China, India, Hawaii, and Thailand, and currently offers workshops, online courses, private coaching, instructor certification programs, and the Wuji Mountain Sanctuary through the nonprofit Community Awake organization. Francesco, it's an honor always to get to spend some time with you.
oh, thank you, Vicky, so much. You do so much awesome stuff. And the fact that you put yourself out to help others, it's what we talk about all the time, right? Is how do we combine at a higher level? How can each of us help each other to support the people we believe in? And that web just keeps getting bigger and bigger. It's
Exactly. And then
beautiful.
it's
Yeah.
it's kind of a ripple effect, right? It starts to ripple out. And one of the things I love about one of the Qigong practices I do called Pebble in the Lake is it's all about standing in that, that
Mm,
emanating presence and not trying to change things, but allowing that emanation. Then you ride the ripples and they get wider and wider. And so
amen.
we never even know the people that we might be impacting or the people who are impacting us through their ripples. So
Yeah.
it's a beautiful thing, and you are such a master teacher of this. And I had the privilege of reading your book even before you got published, and it's now published. It's called The Chi Effect. And I can't recommend it highly enough. And so I wanted to talk a little bit about the book and then anything else that you want to talk about.
Mm.
Um, what prompted you to do this? Because this book is really a departure from a lot of the ways in which people talk about Qigong, at least in this country. I don't know much about how it goes in other countries, but you really took a leap here. It's very integrative. You're bringing in a lot of science, a lot of your own experiences, a lot of spiritual understandings and other stuff. So tell me a little bit about what compelled you, because it's not a small thing to write a book, right? It's a big
Yeah.
endeavor, and this is a very multi-layered book.
Yeah. And, Vicky, times dictate action.
Mm,
Right? Times dictate action. And you could say, oh, well, nothing really changes. Life's always the same. No, it's not. Not in our personal life and not in a global perspective. So when we live from this place, I love this name of your group, Energy Matters, because it's a great double entendre. Yes, energy matters, subjects on energy, but also energy matters. And when I wrote the foreword to the book, the first one was my typical kind of peace and love, sweetness. But then I showed it to a friend of mine who was actually the executive VP at IBM who brought in the PC to the world. He was responsible to bring this new type of computer to the world. So he's quite a amazing guy, Tony Santelli. He read it, and he gets the foreword. I gave him. He goes, "No, this ain't gonna fly to New York. I ain't gonna fly. It ain't gonna work." I go, "Tony, what? It's from my heart." He goes, "You gotta engage people." He goes, "The rest of the book is talking about how important energy is and our view on energy. And if you don't hook them in the forward to understand the gravity of the times," and he's 80 in his 80s, mid 80s, and he got me to thinking, yeah, I think it's time that we really address something that isn't, how do you say, just a derivative, not just the same thing. And I think we all have this tendency, want to be in the club, right? Wouldn't you
mm,
say that, Vicky? I mean,
mhm.
everybody wants to be part of something, whether it's pickleball or whether it's a theory set of
Well,
something like
yeah,
Qigong.
yeah, absolutely. Brene Brown says, that's a human urge or a human need is to belong.
It's tribal.
It's
And
tribal.
it's okay. But the problem with tribalism is it can sometimes deny our intuitive mind, that
Mhm.
heart centered part of us that is so individual and so beautiful. And we have to celebrate that. And sometimes in that individuality, we get insights that go against the tribal message, goes
Mm,
against the grain.
mm.
And I'm the kind of person, because I've been at this for a long, long time, and I've
Most
been,
of your life. Most of
yeah, I mean, as a child, I was interested in these things. I mean, and I couldn't get people to understand or to talk to. And finally, when I'm a teenager, I got around masters. And, by the time I was 18, I got taken under the wing of an old master in the 80s at that time, pulled me out of medical school to be able to do this. So I've always been somebody who really wanted to understand the essence of what it means to be human. But
Mhm.
what, not just to be human, not just survive, but that concept of thriving above survival.
Mhm.
And so I loved the energy work. I loved the idea of Eastern philosophies and deep Christian Gnostic philosophies too. So I'm very open-minded. I don't think anyone's better than any other. They all have a gift for us,
Mhm.
but you have to peel away that part of you that's conditioned. Don't you think you have to peel away the preconceptions, the judgments? That's all our intellectual mind. And I
Mhm.
go in the book pretty deeply on the three minds. It's a whole chapter because
Mhm.
Qigong and Qi, understanding our life force vital energy, first of all, it's so international, right? It's every country, every culture on the planet. I don't care where you're from Africa to Asia, Europe, in between. People have concepts around energy. And a lot of them are beautiful and valid and deep and reminds us how tied we are to each other as humans, this human family. Yet there's always been a piece, Vicky, that really struck me, even in the Qigong society in the West, even masters who taught me in China, that Qi was a limited commodity,
Mhm.
that you
Yes.
had to store it, protect it,
Mhm.
push away the bad, bring in the good, block it, unblock it. I mean, it sounded like a big headache for me at first, though. I was excited first, I mean, at first it's, oh, this is great. Now I've got a challenge. But what was being challenged? Not my heart, but that survival mind, that intellectual mind, those two bandwidths of who we are that is
Mhm.
conditioned into scarcity. We
Yes.
are conditioned, whether our grandparents who were in World War II times and the Depression, or through many times our religious scarcity. Believe it or not, there's scarcity in religion. There's scarcity in the makeup of being human.
Mhm.
And I couldn't see that we could keep projecting that onto Qi. So I started going into a deep dive. I really started to look. Maybe there's something in quantum physics. Maybe there's something in emerging sciences. I talk a lot about, as you see it in the book, about quantum biology. These are things that many people haven't even heard of, but they all point, Vicki, they all point to a critical moment we are in history, especially people who are practicing Reiki or yoga or Tai Chi or Qigong, and say, do I have to make a twist, a change, a subtle but critical change in the way I look at Qi for my healing and my growth? So I have a thesis in the book. It's
Mhm.
called the Qi effect, and it's about changing our perspective, changing our attitude to life force energy, no matter what you call it, prana, mana, Qi, I don't care. It's still the same. It still
Mhm.
touches that human part of us that believes in limitation, the
Right.
five senses.
Moving this out of scarcity into limitless possibility is a huge leap, right? Because I think that and we talk about projection, the ways in which I think that when I learning about Qigong, it was the same kind of thing of like it's limited, store, protect, you know,
Sure.
keep some in the bank.
Yeah, right.
And and what you're talking about is really tapping into what really is for me, it's like this is what breaks us out of being narrative beings into energetic beings, and that energy is not something that can be quantified.
No, and first of all, we have to understand, and why is it hard to change these ways of thinking? Why?
And what would you say?
No, what would you say? I'm asking you. Why is it hard for people to shift out of a mindset?
I think there's so many different reasons that come up for me. One is the circle we might be among, right? The people, the influences that we might be among, that sort of all are in that mindset, kind of that herd mindset of
Absolutely.
this is how things are. I think another thing is fear, right? There's something, that Marianne Williamson quote about being afraid of being I can't remember what it is. People aren't afraid of success, or afraid of failure, they're afraid of success, or something like that. I can't remember what it is, but that sense of really owning, because then all of a sudden we're owning, I can actually make a difference. I can actually make a difference in my life, and I can also make a difference, but in a really deep way, to the people around me.
Yeah. And I like Marianne. She came to one of my workshops and was very interested in these ideas of that she could be activated instead of collected.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a game changer for me.
Me too.
And it's what I want people to go to, because here's the thing, Vicki, people conflate energy with chi.
Mm.
Well, I thought it was all the same, people say. No, it's not. Until we can really deconstruct the truth behind our experience, we're going to be trapped in these conflations. That means making everything clump together. We're going to be trapped in reading books that were written hundreds, if not thousands of years ago. And here's the thing. I think a lot of people don't feel like they're good enough to question.
Mm.
Isn't that interesting?
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. I agree with what you said before about the fear and the tribalism.
Mm-hmm.
There's a deep part of us that we weren't trained how to think. We were trained what to think.
Mm.
And then the what came from experts. And then you have this weird little subconscious thing that says, well, I'm not an expert, so therefore I can't question. And that's tough.
I had a teacher once, and that would be one thing that we would argue about all the time, was she believed in this hierarchy of spirit. And I was like, no, it's not, we can't think of it as hierarchy. The grandmaster, the sort of traditional I think it's patriarchal way of
Absolutely
seeing.
Patriarchal. It's sick.
Yeah. To be blunt.
To be true.
So let's back up for a second. When you talk about the difference between chi and energy, how are you going to define these two things?
Okay, this is critical. This is fundamental to the chi effect concept. Because remember, the chi effect simply means how we activate chi.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It's simple. That's the effect of chi on our human body, spirit, and so forth. But energy, let's be clear, energy is everything made of atoms, right? We know now, we're not in the 50s anymore. We've come a long way to understand that every atomic structure, every atom, every element is an atom, and they are essentially energetic fields.
Yes, space with a little movement in it.
Exactly. We're always taught about that image that there's a little tiny dot in the middle. That's the neutrons and the protons, and there's electron way out here, and there's nothing in between. Well, in fact, even the neutrons and the protons and electrons are nothing but energy.
Space, yeah.
Very, very intense energy fields. But it's no different than the energy field you and I share right now.
Right.
It's no different than the energy fields in our whole body structure. We are used to physical stuff. We are trapped in the five senses. I get it.
Right. It's also no different, I think, than the dot that the Earth is in terms of this universe, which is among many universes, right?
Exactly.
Right?
These are fractalizations, they call it in science. A little thing reflects a bigger thing, reflects a giant thing. This is how nature works. But here's the thing. If everything solid is energy, if everything energy, like electromagnetic energy is energy, even thoughts we call are energy, I get it. I absolutely agree with that and make it very clear in the book. That's great energy. That's what we're working with. It's not chi. That's where we conflate it. Now you say, well, I thought chi is energy. Has anyone ever measured it? No, it's impossible to measure. It really bums a lot of people out that they can't. They can measure maybe the effect. Remember, I'm the chairman of the Qigong Institute, and I work with Dr. Ken Sansir before he passed, who was the founder. And he worked very hard to measure the effect of chi, not chi, because we can't measure it, not honestly. That means it's not in the realm of the 3D space. It's not in the realm of measurable things, atomic or energetic, electromagnetic. Let it be outside that. let it be a mystery, so to speak, because that's where it belongs. It's not to be constrained by these physical things where we anthropomorphize, where we project our human limits onto everything from puppies to our friends to our body to chi. It's time to end that. If people really want Vicky to grow, to heal, to take that next step above survival and move into thriving, we got to change this first.
Mm-hmm.
People say, well, Francesco, it's just words. It's just in your mind. Guess what? It's all in your mind. And it's all in words.
Mm-hmm.
As Wittgenstein said, Ludwig Wittgenstein, who was great, he was a mathematician at Cambridge. He went on to be a philosophy professor, probably the first openly gay professor there, amazing man. He was so clear that we live in a word-built world, and we can be destroyed by those words if we use them wrong,
Mm-hmm.
which comes down to the thoughts. If our thoughts are limited, what is our life like?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Right? So it's time to change because the times are requiring it.
Yes.
The reason the Taoists came out, because there was a warmonger world called the Warring States period in China. That's where Taoism came out of. It came out of a time where the leaders were in a war mode. And where do you think we are now again?
Big time across the globe.
It's a sin, and it's sad. You don't want anyone to die. You don't want children or families or military men or women to die. I don't want anyone to die. There's no reason anyone needs to die. And if anyone is supporting in any way, they better look in the mirror and ask themselves, why aren't you lobbying for peace? So we have to first heal that wound inside us that lets us make judgments, that lets us think it's okay to fight.
And some of that, for me, some of that is just about slowing down the pace, right? I was in a rehearsal the other day, and somebody was talking about it went into a place where somebody's talking about one this thing, and the other person immediately had to bring in the other side, right? As though there were two sides, and and it was like, can we just slow this down? Just go into a deeper internal place and really listen more deeply to what it is that you're concerned about, what it is that you're wanting to express, because it was so, it's like there's so much right now. The defensiveness is so palpable and so fast. It's so fast paced and so noisy. And I think, for whether it's through social media or through through among family members, I'm really looking at how can we just slow down internally so that we can be.
That's why we need to do these practices. I don't care if it's any of the ones I mentioned or meditation. You have to do something to slow down. Why to slow down? Because we forget the one piece that drives us is our heart.
Yes.
And if we don't come back to heart, we'll never have presence, because our other two minds, the intellectual mind and the survival mind, don't know about presence. They know about judgments, which means you compare the past to the past. Mm-hmm. And the survival mind is really big on the future, anxiety about what's to come, prepare yourself for the future. So we have to quiet those two minds, but wake up the intuitive mind.
Yes. And
then say, okay, I'm going to find out why I'm vibrating in polarity, because that's what picking the side's all about. If you think one side is better or worse than the other, you have defined two. When there's two, guess what the word duality means? You're trapped in duality. You will never heal. Even if you think you're absolutely right. As soon as you confront in an adversarial way another point of view, Vicky, it just hurts my heart to see what people are doing to themselves.
Mine too, which is why why it's always such healing for me to talk to you, because I learn from you, and I also resonate, and I also, it's like, oh, I'm hearing another way of expressing what I've been feeling, sensing, knowing. So I want would you unpack a little for us, Francesco, the intuitive mind, the interplay of the intuitive mind with heart resonance?
It's very interesting. We have to go back to the older ways of thinking where people believe they thought with their heart. Do you know that? It wasn't up until Newton's time where people started thinking, oh, the brain maybe is where we're doing our thinking. This was when the really heavy patriarchal vibrations started coming in of materialism and facts and exalting the intellectual mind and subjugating the feminine, beautiful, intuitive mind. It's related to the heart because the heart vibration, we call it the heart resonance. I use that word a lot, right? The heart resonance is a certain energy signature. It's real energy. This is energy that activates chi at a very high level, but it's the energy of electromagnetism that you can measure in your heart. Your heart.
Right. That's what heart math. That's what a heart math does, right? They
exactly
use instruments.
It's beautiful, and every hospital does when they get EKGs and so forth. So we know this is a particular vibration. It's what triggers the intuitive mind because it's a very present signature. It's all about pulling you into this present moment. And that's what intuition is, because intuition only works in the present moment. Mm-hmm. If it's thinking about the past, you've shifted out of intuitive into intellectual. Mm-hmm. If you're thinking about the future, you're probably in the past and the future at this point. Mm-hmm. When you're present in heart resonance, that's when the intuitive mind kicks in. Mm-hmm. That's why real love is the focus of our intuitive mind. Mm-hmm. You know, and it's like when you're in that loving space and really in a loving space and you're holding a little baby or you're holding a puppy or you're holding your lover, you're nowhere else. As soon as you're somewhere else, you've kicked out of the intuitive mind. Mm-hmm. So I think it's the critical mind we all need to work on right now and understand and listen and really do what you can to find out what that signature looks like. So when you do see a conflict, like you just described, that people started coming in and start battling out who's right or wrong, imagine dropping in, asking everybody to take a breath and drop into what it feels like to be in your intuitive mind, into your heart space. Because the heart not only is the only mind that can be present, it's the only mind that can be inclusive.
Right.
Because the intellectual mind will be inclusive, but through judgment. I'll include you because you're good. I'll include you because you look like me. I'll include you because somebody told me. That's intellectual thinking. If that's how you think, again, take a breath, say, I don't need this type of thinking at this moment, and quiet those aspects of your mind until the intuitive comes up and you can do it from heart resonance. Mm-hmm. This is what we all need to be working on right now, I think, to try to identify it. No one's asked us to identify that before. We usually have a knee-jerk reaction about what's the heart, and it tends to be more of a hallmark version than a critical energy, an energetic version. And even at the energetic version, I think it's love in the deepest way. It doesn't have to look like this. It can look like this. So this is what we're asked now. And so we started in the beginning of the conversation here that the times are requesting it. Why were you and I born into these times? It's no accident. Mm-hmm. Our energetic, and this is my next book that's coming out next year. You love this one, called Soul Threads. It's a complete departure. If you think this one departs away from the traditional way of thinking, wait until you see the next one. But essentially, there's a lot of case to be made about why we're here. And the reason isn't so much a singular reason, but it's an energetic reason. It's what has tied those parts of us into a way that they vibrate at this time for growth. And so when I meet you, and I've loved you since we first met, we just had something we couldn't put a label on, but we say there's a sisterhood, brotherhood there that's super cool. The people around us like us, not because we're funny or stupid or entertaining.
Well, that
because,
too.
Well, that's the front man, it's the front.
Right, that's the lead energy.
It's the lead energy, but really what it is because we know we all have something to share and learn from each other. I'm learning all the time.
Oh, yeah.
I know. And somebody we learn from it.
Yeah. Somebody once asked, well, who are your teachers? And I'm sort of thinking, well, who isn't my teacher at this point? Right.
Yeah. Right. Everybody around me. My goodness.
Yeah.
I just had a beautiful experience when I was out shopping today. I don't come off Fuji Mountain very often, but I once a week, if I should try to go buy food and other things, but I went to one little shop, a kind of a cool shop called Instant Karma. Don't you love that name? Asheville's full of really cool hippie type things. Reminds me of back in the 70s sometimes. And just this beautiful young person behind the counter. And the way they engaged with me and looked me in the eye and tried to help me and made me the most important person in that moment. And I made them the most important person in the moment. And it was beautiful. It's an engagement. So are we learning from everybody? Yes. And should we make that the point to engage at the heart resonance with even a 5-minute transaction?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
When I watch other people come in at the counter down the line, they came in, put the money on, thank you, have a good day, enjoy your Thanksgiving, and left. It was like, do you think that's intuitive mind heart connection? Or maybe we might relegate that to survival mind, say the right thing so you're accepted, or intellectual. It's probably good to say thank you after you make a purchase. I was taught that when I was young.
You don't want to come back into the store.
Exactly. So we realize that we're controlled by our programming, by our conditioning. Yeah. And the only way out of that cage is to come back to heart resonance and intuitive mind and trust your intuition. I mean, especially women. Women are like, they're halfway there already. I mean, more than halfway there. So the conditioning is rife for everyone, but women have a particular gift if they could trust their power, which is why when I have these big workshops, I just taught to 60 people, and the ones who cried were men. The ones who had their breakdowns, men, because they are not halfway there. They're halfway on the other side backwards, still in what they think they're supposed to be. And it's a disaster. I'm happy to watch it. I make a lot of men cry. I think it's my job, but the fact that men are coming to these workshops knowing full well that I'm going to be unleashing the Ronin samurai swords on them, because it's time. Yeah. We have no time to be nice, no time, or be kind,
or polite, no time,
or polite, or politically correct. No, it's time to be honest. Yeah. And that's when you rely on your intuitive mind. And what's the gift of women when they can speak from that place? That is the most powerful place to speak from. Mm-hmm. Not from anger. Men feel like they're strong because they can be loud and forceful, but that's why they collapse so easy, because they're on a sand foundation. We have to transform our emotions. Mm-hmm. We talk about it in this book a bit. Emotion alchemy, I call it. Mm-hmm. We've got to not manage or shut down our emotions, but express them, feel them, identify them, label them, and transform. Yes. That's power. That's energy to tap, real energy.
Let them move through. Just let them move through. Sometimes it's just like, when I find myself clutching, it's like, how do I let this move through so it does that I don't stay? Because if I clutch on any of it, and I'm always tempted to clutch on the good stuff, but if I clutch, then I think what I'm doing is just creating more fear. So whether I'm clutching to the scary, hard stuff or the good stuff, it's like, a clutch. It's like, how do I just let myself be in flow? And I'm not talking about stagnant chi. I'm talking about an emotional tightness that needs to just open back to that heart resonance, which is one of the things I feel I get to do every time I'm around you, which is why I always love to connect. So I want to mention that you have a YouTube channel where you do you do teaching online quarterly, at least. I think I know you have something coming up in December.
We never know what I do. When it emerges when it comes.
It emerges when it emerges.
But Community Awake is a great place to go.
But I want people to be able to connect and find out more, and also experience. When you're leading us in meditation or in this embodied prayer of Qigong, that that they have an opportunity. So I know, and you did these beautiful videos about the Qi effect as you were waiting for it to actually come out in print. So I'll put links to all of that in when I publish this on YouTube and Facebook. But let's talk for a little bit about your book. In terms of getting it, and about Community Awake and what Community Awake is, and how we can support this flourishing of this movement that you're a big founder of and instigator.
It's good to instigate things that are meaningful. That's what we all try to do. If we talk about purpose of life, what is it but to connect with each other and help empower each other?
Exactly.
If we can't do that, If
Oh,
you
it's
think it's
just
just to be
connecting with
success,
self and connecting with the communities that you're in, and then connecting in the larger global sense. So it's
that's it.
all about that,
I've never
that
seen
ripple
that not
effect.
bring joy to people
Yeah.
on
Yeah.
every level of engagement.
Yeah.
But Community Wakes are nonprofit. It's been around for 25 years. It's designed, as the name implies, to wake the community up. And so sometimes, like we just finished a whole veterans uh, scholarship program to get vets to come in to learn about stress management programs and stress transformation programs. I used to do tons of stuff with teenagers, and I'll do a lot more when we get our Wuji Mountain retreat going. But right now, Community Awake is putting most of its resources and donations going into building this beautiful retreat center here in Asheville, North Carolina. We still support the Buddhist monks in Bhutan, and I still do as many things as I can. But how do we create a place? And you're going to come to it. You'll be part of it. And then the idea is to create a small place where small, meaningful groups can come together on this beautiful 8-acre forested mountaintop next to a river. I mean, it's a sacred place, old, beautiful Cherokee land where we can come for our personal transformations. And I think you need to do that and get away from home. You need to take a few days away from your normal conditioning and pattern habits. So that's what Community Wake is about. And we have a lot of online courses, self-guided online courses. The book, of course, the Chi Effect, that is now out. And thank goodness people are telling me around in other countries they're getting it now too, which is wonderful.
Great.
All the proceeds go to Community Wake. So every penny goes to support this project to get Wuji Mountain happening.
And I just want to let people know, if you want to see imagery of Community Wake, follow Francesco on Facebook. He has some absolutely amazing videos. Some of them are hilarious. Some of them are just beautiful expressions of his applied Qigong. So you get to see, I mean, he shows you just where he is and what he's evolving here in this space. It's a true gift that you're giving to the communities that get to benefit. So I'll post all of those types of links for people. Is there any last thing that you feel like you'd like to say, Francesco?
Other than energy matters.
Energy matters.
Energy matters, and
most.
Please,
energy matters most.
Yes.
Yeah.
Make it a priority. Let this time, especially as we're coming up to the holidays now, let it be a time where you reset your priorities in a deep way. It's great to use these end of year type times and the traditional time of revisiting the harvest and so forth. Don't just do it in a cliche way. Don't just do it because everyone else is doing it. Do it because you realize how critical it is. Vicki, I can't impress upon people enough that we're entering challenging times. Vicki, there's no way to get around it or to walk on eggshells around it. Everything is pointing to very complex times coming up, both fiscally, globally, a lot of things. And it's scary about politics in the United States because we have the most powerful country in the world right now and the most people who live in any country that has this much money. That means money is power for weapons and propaganda. We are not living in good times.
No.
But they're blessed times because each of us has to belly up. Each of us has to say, energy matters. My thoughts are energy. My emotions are energy. Who do I choose to be? And can I bring that back to heart resonance? That to me is, if everybody did a little bit of that a day, it'd be a different world, and we have to do our part.
May it be so. May it be so. Thank you for everything that you say, everything that you do, and all of who you be, Francesco. You are a blessing.
Dear Vicki, you're a blessing to me always, and everybody that you touch in all the beautiful ways. So thank you for your Dharma and your beautiful work that you do.
Right back at you. All right, my brother, we will connect again soon, I know.